All right, so let's get into our main event of this episode. And I mentioned today is the premiere of the movie documentary Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. And I thought it was a great idea to kind of look into the character of Superman, the legacy of Superman, and how it's impacted um, our world today and our society. And who not better to talk about this than our special guest for this episode. He is known for being on The Sopranos, but has also appeared on other shows such as Law and Order and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And he joins us here. Most of you remember his appearance on our special Batman episode not too long ago. So let us welcome here Mr. Vic Martino. Vic, how are you doing today?
Hey, I made it. I was having a little problems, but I went from Clark Kent to Superman, and I saved the day.
Wow, and that's amazing. Your technical prowess is unbelievable. I thank you so much, Vic, for joining me today. Let's get things rolling here. I mentioned it off the top that today is also Batman Day, and I wanted to start with your thoughts on today being Batman Day.
And also, it happens to be my birthday.
Oh wow! Happy birthday! Wow, 2 for 1,
So,
3 for 1.
yeah, Batman Day falls on my birthday, and and on Batman Day we're going to talk about Superman. Of course, we did a Batman podcast already, and I
Yes.
reposted it in honor of Batman Day, and I titled it. If anybody wants to go see it on YouTube, very simple: Best Batman Podcast. And you could see Kenai and yours truly here talking about the Batman, and this happens to be Batman Day. And it's appropriate that we talk about Superman because if it wasn't for Superman, there would be no Batman, and I'll explain that.
Absolutely. And of course, today being the special launch of the documentary Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Interesting that they chose today, Vic, to launch the movie today on Batman Day. Maybe there's an Easter
Yeah, I
egg
wonder, did
in.
they know it was Batman Day, or was it coincidence? I mean, did they not know it was Batman Day to Superman? Well, Superman and Batman go hand in hand.
They do, they do. And maybe there's an Easter egg that kind of ties everything together. We'll have to see the movie to be sure. But shout out to all fans of The Dark Knight and the Cape Crusader for joining us here today. Let's begin with your thoughts and your memories, Vic, of Superman. What does the character mean to you? And what is the legacy of Superman today? Is it in good hands right now?
Well, first, let me say that, like I said, if it wasn't for Superman, there'd be no Batman because Superman, the two gentlemen, Jerry Siegel and Siegel and Schuster, Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster, who created Superman. Where did you go? And I don't
Oh, no,
see
I
one.
got you. Keep going.
Oh, there you are. Oh, you blacked out there. Anyway, uh, the two gentlemen who created Superman, they were actually two young, I don't know, kids, but young boys, and they created Superman in 1938. And because Superman was an instant success, very popular, the DC, which was they were working for the what we know as DC Comics, said, "Hey, we want another superhero," and they went
Right.
to this guy Bob Kane, who in turn went to Bill Finger, and you can find out more about that when you listen to the Batman podcast. To create another superhero, so Superman was 38, and the following year, 1939, they created Batman due to the success of Superman.
Okay. Okay.
And my first, you asked me my first encounter. Well, as a kid, it was the Superman TV show with George Reeves,
Hmm.
and I remember as a kid, watching that show, being all excited that Superman was on TV. And I think, yeah, I had some Superman comics before that. In all honesty, though, my favorite is Batman, but I like Superman. Uh, and I was really into the show, and then ironically enough, George Reeves played Superman on the TV show, and then we're going to be talking about Christopher Reeve,
Right.
similar last names there, who to me is the best Superman ever.
Hmm.
I mean, I love George Reeves, but that was more of like a kiddie show. Yeah, quiet out there! I'm doing a podcast. I'm sorry, I'm in New York City here, very noisy. But anyway, uh, Well, would you say? Shut. Oh, I hate
You're in
motorcycles.
Metropolis, I think.
Yeah, I'm in Gotham City. No, I'm in Metropolis. Exactly. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, Christopher Reeve to me was the best. All due respect to George Reeves, he was great for what he did. But like I said, that Superman show, is more or less a children's show, kind of.
Hmm.
But Christopher Reeve, to me, is the epitome of Superman. He was a great Clark Kent,
Mm.
a great Superman. I don't think you're ever going to get any better Superman than he was.
Right,
He was by far the best to this day, and his movies, the first two, are excellent. The best Superman movies you're ever going to see.
right. Well, let's focus there because I know there were three movies prior to Christopher Reeve's Superman, but most people, um,
No,
uh,
wait, three. They weren't. Christopher Reeve was the first Superman movie Superman. Before that was George Reeves on television, but
oh, okay,
Christopher Reeve was the first Superman on TV on the movie screen. I mean, unless you count those 1940 serials,
yeah,
and
I looked them up, and it turns out there's three movies there, uh, three Superman movies. Let me just take a look at
no.
them again.
Well, you must be thinking about okay. There was the George Reeves Superman from the TV show, the pilot episode. There, they made a movie of it, Superman and the Mole Men. That was
Okay,
George Reeves, but that wasn't really a movie. That wasn't officially a film. And
okay,
then
and
there were two serials with Kirk Allen,
okay,
who played Superman. But those weren't feature films. Those were movie serials.
okay. So Adam Man versus the Superman was a serial.
Yes, that was a serial. They made them into movies. What happened was the first one was just called Superman, and it was with Kirk Allen.
Okay,
And then the second one was Adam Man versus Superman, or
okay,
Superman versus Adam Man, and they were like 15 chapters. You would go to the usually matinees for the kids.
yeah,
You would go every Saturday. Would be chapter 1, 2, 3, and what they did was eventually later on they tied them together and made a movie out of them.
right,
But they weren't really theatrically released films. They
okay,
were, like I said, they were serials, and then they tied them together and made showed it as if it were a film, but it really technically wasn't. The first real Superman feature film was the one with Christopher Reeve.
okay. So let's start then with the Reeve movie because I think that's the one that most people associate with um, uh, as the beginning of the golden era of Superman when they first saw Christopher Reeve don the cape and all the things he was able to do. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, he appeared in four of those movies, Superman movies. And what was so special about Christopher Reeve and his ability to make people believe that man could fly?
First, let me say there's actually 5 Superman movies. You know, there's 2 versions of Superman 2
That's true. That's true.
with
If you
different
count
directors.
the two, yeah,
Yeah, but anyway, so officially 4.
yeah,
Yes, I think what happened was at that time, we really didn't see any superhero movies. That was the first big superhero movie
yeah.
back in '78 or '79. The
78. Yep.
first, yeah, the first Christopher Reeve one. And I remember going to see that in the theaters. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
and that was spectacular. That was the first time you believed like he was actually flying. I mean, of course you knew he wasn't, but it really looked like he was flying because now they have the special effects to do that. In the
Right.
days of George Reeves and Kirk Allen, you didn't have special effects,
Mm-hmm.
so it looked phony. But that was the first time you actually believed, wow, he looks like he's flying.
Right.
And that first movie, man, had some impact. And that was like the first really big superhero feature film.
Mm-hmm. And it
And
kind of it raised the bar, didn't it, Vic, in terms of what a superhero could be, and in terms of his the story behind him brought to life, and also the villains that he had to face during that series were fairly impressive as well.
oh yeah, I mean, well, you had Gene Hackman, in my opinion, a really one of the best actors
Yeah.
that we've had, and he's up there with the best of them. And he played Lex Luthor, and
Right.
it was great. He played it great. And of course, Margaret Kidder was Lois Lane,
Right.
and so it was a great cast. And Christopher Reeve was a great Superman. And
Hmm.
what I really liked about it he wasn't really well known at the time. It wasn't like, they cast a big star to play Superman. So you really believed he was Clark Kent, that he was Superman,
Right.
because that's what made him famous. That's what got him in the public eye. And I prefer they cast people for these. Now they cast known actors in these superhero movies. I prefer they cast somebody that's not as well known. Of course,
Hmm.
he's done other stuff before that, but he wasn't really well known. He became well known from playing Superman,
Right.
and to a lot of people, he's the definitive Superman.
Right. And a lot of people say that he brought like a humility to the role. He was obviously an impressive figure physically, but in terms of the emotional maturity that he brought to the role, giving Clark Kent, you know, uh, uh, a humanistic personality that people could get behind, and then of course as Superman, bringing the thunder, bringing the believability in terms of being powerful enough to dispatch his enemies. I thought it was an excellent combination of bringing those two together that really brought the fans together.
Oh yeah, well he was a great Clark Kent and a great Superman, and I love the way he played Clark Kent, kind of comical, and then Superman was serious,
Right.
and yeah, he was very effective in the part. He was. We're so fortunate that they cast Christopher Reeve. Unfortunately, what happened to him,
Yeah.
that's another story. But he'll always be remembered for being, in my opinion, the best Superman ever. I don't care who they get. The other guy, I liked Henry Cavill.
Hmm.
The movies weren't as good as they could have been,
Hmm.
but he wasn't. Nobody's going to match up to Christopher Reeve.
Right. And of course, Brandon Ruth and others who have picked up the cape both in movies and on TV. Um, a lot of people still talk to me about Dean Kane's Superman on the Adventures of Clark, Clark and Lois. A lot of people like that one too.
I was just going to say, to me, Dean Kane is the best television Superman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I started watching it. I knew we were going to be doing this. I started watching it. I have Tubi, and I started watching. They have Lois and Clark,
Right.
and man, that show was a good show, and he was a good Superman, and she was a good Lois Lane, Terry Hatcher.
Hmm.
So Dean Kane, Terry Hatcher, to me, the best television Superman, version, and Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, the best, Superman Lois Lane on the movie screen.
Exactly. Don't forget the three gentlemen and lady behind me here. Terrence Stamp, who played General Zod in Superman
Yeah.
2. Uh, those three villains and were very effective. And really, I remember as a kid being very intrigued by these villains and how they were able to form a challenge for Superman while injecting some humorous personality. And I think a humor is another thing, Vic, that kind of gets me. There's a lot of humor in those Superman films, particularly the first three.
Oh yeah. Well, like you said, those villains were great. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people would argue that Superman 2 is better than Superman 1. That the
Right,
sequel was actually better because of those villains.
right, right,
I think they were both equally on par. Those first two among the best superhero movies ever made.
right.
The other ones, though, Superman 3 and 4, men's, not as. Christopher Reeve was still good, but the movies, the scripts got bad. They started getting silly. He was actually going to do a Superman 5, and he was going to take charge and make sure it was a good one. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, what happened happened.
yeah. Yeah, uh, I think I agree. The first two were the best, and the third one a little bit too much on the humor side. I actually have Superman 3, and there is a very good scene in Superman 3, despite it being an average movie, and I'm being generous there, was when the evil Superman faced the good Superman in the construction yard there. And that was an excellent scene, and it showed the range of Christopher Reeve again to play both parts.
No, it wasn't that. That was in Superman 4, I think.
No, Superman 3.
Superman 3 was the.
Yeah,
Oh,
Superman
okay.
3 with Richard Pryor.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. When
That I got it mixed up. I know he fights a super villain in the
Superman
fourth
4
one.
is when they have the nuclear weapon.
Oh
Uh,
yes,
yeah,
nuclear man. Yeah,
right.
isn't there like a nuclear guy he fights?
Yeah, there's a nuclear guy that he has to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
up against Superman 4. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But those two. I mean, they're still fun. I mean, they're not unwatchable, but they're just not as good as those first two were so good
yeah,
that it was a hard act to follow.
yeah.
Like I say, Man 1 and 2 are among the best superhero movies ever made to this day.
Right. And those movies, as good or as bad as they were, they helped. They really helped launch the Superman franchise, and it even generated Supergirl. Remember Supergirl with Helen Slater, Vic in
Oh,
1984.
although that movie didn't do well. You
No, it
know,
didn't do
this,
too well at the time, but over time, it's kind of become a cult classic, and a lot of people of today's generation seem to like the film.
hmm, yeah, well, the Superman movies, of course, they were very successful. I don't know about, I know 1 and 2 were. I don't know about 3 and 4.
Right.
But then for a long time, superhero movies were considered dead. They said, okay,
Yeah.
we've done Superman, we've done 4 of them. And
Right.
it wasn't until the Batman movie in 1989 that's really what revived all the superhero movies that we're seeing today.
Right. And that Batman movie revived Superman, the next
Yeah.
generation, with Man of Steel and all that. What do you think about those next generation Superman movies, overall?
Well, DC does better, except for Batman. The Superman movies aren't doing it too well. As a matter of fact, they're rebooting the DC
Right.
and they're getting a and they're starting over because those I didn't think they were all that bad, but
Hmm.
I could see why real fans of that genre weren't too happy with them. Like the Superman versus Batman, it could have been a lot better. I mean, I'm not saying like I liked it, I didn't love it, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think Henry Cavill would have been a good Superman. He just didn't get the chance to be in good movies. The
Yeah.
scripts weren't up to par what they should have been,
Hmm.
and it sort of killed. If they don't do now, they're working on a new Superman movie as we're talking
Right.
with who's the director? I forget. A really good director's behind it. Um, I forget his name. Anyway, um, if this movie doesn't do well, we won't be seeing any more Superman movies for a long time. So this Superman movie has to do well because the others didn't. So
Yeah.
hopefully, this new one they're working on. I know they have a really good director behind. I think his name is Terrence Gunn, something Gunn, the last name Gunn.
James
But
Gunn. Yeah. James Gunn.
yes, yes, and he's a really good director, and he's really a Superman fan. So
Oh,
hopefully he's going to do a good job, and Superman will be back on the big screen.
they're also working on a Supergirl movie as well.
Oh,
Um,
are they?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
working on it with, but that's slated to come out in 2026. But I do agree with you. There was a bit of a lull, with those next generation Superman movies kind of failed to build on what, the Christopher Reeve
They,
movies did.
although Superman does well on TV, Smallville, and what was that other new? And also, he's a good Superman, the
Superboy.
newest one. What was the show? There's a
Uh,
new. There was a new Superman show after Smallville. This one
okay,
with Superman and Lois. They're married. He has 2 kids.
right.
That was the Superman does well on TV. He
Yeah,
just hasn't been doing it on the big screen.
yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of ironic, Vic, because when you go back to Christopher Reeve movie, they kind of elevated the, with the technology, the way they were able to, the visuals and the production of Superman kind of elevated things, kind of building on maybe what Star Wars did, with the space in 1977. But now,
Mhm.
the technology is there, but, now they're having trouble with the other side, with the screenwriting and, getting everything else together.
Yes. Well, James Gunn, like I said, directing this newest one,
Hmm.
is a fan. He's a fan of the genre of the
Right.
superhero. I really believe that you need people to work on these projects that are fans of the they appreciate superheroes. They're familiar with the story arc,
Hmm.
and they love it. They have a love for it. That's how
Right.
you're going to get the. If you just have somebody directing who doesn't know the subject matter
Yeah.
and, really respect it like you should, it's going to bomb. You got
Yeah.
to get somebody who loves the genre, and James Gunn does. And I think he's going to do a good job. I hope he does a good job.
I think we all do because I think we all need a good Superman. And again, we keep going back to Reeve, but he really helped. Really helped define that honest and noble Superman, a vision of hope, something that we could aspire to. And I think the next generation Superman movies tried to capitalize on the dark theme or the realistic theme that the Batman movies really had. And I don't think it quite worked out for Superman. Maybe they'll go back
No,
to
and just because Batman works dark, Batman is great dark, the Dark Knight. But just because Batman's successful that way, that doesn't mean you got to copy and make all the superheroes like that. Very
yeah,
few of the super dark, especially Superman. He's got to be kind of light because let's face it, it's real fantasy.
right,
Batman powers, Superman does.
yeah,
Superman wears glasses; they can't tell who he is. I mean, come on, So you got to suspend disbelief. Superman, you can only make it so realistic. You got to keep it light, humorous, like the Christopher Reeve movies.
yeah,
That's how you do a movie. You don't try to make Superman into Batman.
right. I think I agree. Um, Now, I know we haven't seen this new documentary, Superman, the
No, I
Christopher
got
Reeve story. Um,
it. It's about Superman or Christopher Reeve.
yeah, it's called Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, but it focuses
Okay.
on Christopher Reeve and his ascension to stardom with Superman, and then also deals with what happened afterwards with the horse riding accident and his the paralysis and all of that. So it kind of looks at before and after his life changed with that accident. And from what I've seen with the trailer, Vic, it looks very compelling. You see a lot of backstage moments, private moments with friends of Reeve, including Robin Williams, and you get to really see a peek behind the curtain and how people really adored and respected him, both pre and post.
Oh yeah, he was a really, really good guy. I mean, by all accounts, everybody said he was not just Superman. He was a superhuman being. He was a decent human being. And I was at a function he was at one time.
Right.
I was not. I didn't really meet him officially, but he was so nice. To the people I was watching because I was not really in close proximity to him. But I said somebody told me said that is Christopher Reeve. I said, oh wow. But I was getting ready to do a show, so I didn't really go over to him. And I'm not one to. I don't want to come across like a fan. I want to come across like a fellow professional. If
Right.
we were working, I don't want to come. Hey, yo, Christopher Reeve is Superman. Could you sign my autograph? I don't do that. But what I did notice, he was online waiting for whatever it was, food or coffee or I don't know what it was, and they were gonna, of course, take him first.
Okay.
He's a celebrity, and
Right.
and he said, "No, no, let these people go first. They were here first." So that's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. Yeah, you keep hearing a lot of stories like that, and the way that he was able to take care of his children, and of course his faithful wife Dana, who stood by his side throughout everything that happened to him. It's just an amazing story behind the scenes that this documentary, I hope, um, uh, will document and show us to the fullest because. Like you said, the impact of what he did behind the camera is probably even greater than what he was able to achieve on the screen itself.
Yes, I mean, a lot of actors you might like their work, but unfortunately, if you meet them in person, you're like, oh, what a dick, But
Yeah,
no, Chris was not like that. Christopher Reeve, if you met him in person, you would like him even more.
yeah,
And they say the same thing about Dean Cain.
right, right.
So
Yeah,
these
no, yeah, Deep Kane's is awesome. I really love that. Was like uh, it was so amazing when that TV show came because it really from the theme song of the show to Dean Kane, it really brought back the fact that Superman was back, and it gave hope that maybe they would be able to do the same thing with a movie at that time.
and it was called Lois and Clark, and Terry Hatcher was a great Lois Lane.
The
She might
Adventures
be,
of Lois and Clark.
oh man, and did I have the hots for her?
Yeah, Yeah, I think
Uh,
everyone loved Terry Hatcher, definitely.
but
Abs
you know, now Superman. There's uh well, we if we talk about the animated shows, there's been so many
right.
Superman cartoon shows, and I love the graphic novels, even the Superman graphic novels. I love, I wasn't a big reader of Superman because I found I wasn't into real fantasy.
Mhm.
That's why I prefer back or
Yeah.
reality.
Mhm.
I mean, for one word, reality based. But I love what they're doing with the superhero graphic novels now,
Mhm.
and they're making them more serious, but still not dark. They're a little more serious, more trying to
Yes.
make them. They're trying to make them as believable as possible for
Right.
a guy who just glasses, but they're trying to make that as believable as possible without being as dark as the Batman. And
Right.
that's the way to do it. You don't want to get too dark with Superman, but you can take a more realistic approach, is what they're doing with these new modern day graphic novels. And I love them. I mean, I'm addicted to reading graphic novels.
Right.
And they did a great job with Superman, which I've never was into reading Superman before. So Superman like Batman is better than ever.
Mhm. And one thing I noticed too with those movies, like they were able to attract some pretty high talent. Like I remember Marlon Brando in the first Superman,
Oh, that's
and
right. Jor-El, he played Superman's father in the first one. Yes.
right, and so and even Margot Kidder, both the veteran talent and the young and upcoming talent, they were able to corral. And it's hopeful that maybe they were able to get that same kind of situation for this new one coming in 2025. But to me, it was astounding that they were able to get someone like Brando for that first one. Did it surprise you?
Well, no, because at that time Brando was doing like what you would call cameos.
Okay.
Like he would show up in movies in small parts. So no,
Okay.
that didn't surprise me. It really wasn't a big part. And he got a hell of a lot of money
Yeah,
just for that small part. So
he
I
did.
mean, he was like at the time it was like ridiculous,
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson, same thing with Jack Nicholson for the Joker.
Right.
He made so much money off that. I mean, they were great in the role,
Mhm.
but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when you make these superhero movies, you really don't need big names. Well, not for the superhero. Nobody's going to go to Superman or Batman because a big actor's playing. They're going to go anyway. Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't want to say anybody can play Superman or Batman. It's got to be the right person, but it doesn't have to be a big name actor.
Right.
And I think it's better when it's not, like Christopher Reeve, you know, because you're going to see the movie to see Superman. You don't care if it's Joe Blow as Superman or Jack Jones. You want to just go to see the Superman. Doesn't matter who the actor is. They can save a lot of money instead of wasting money on these big name actors. That really doesn't matter to have them in the movie. Maybe like for the villain, like okay, for the Joker, yes, I can see. Even on the Batman TV show, the villains were Adam West and Burt Ward weren't as well known, that played Batman and Robin. But they got bigger names to play the villains. Those were very well known actors.
Right.
So when they got Jack Nicholson to play the Joker, the reasoning was Tim Burton said, well, now we need a name actor to play Batman. We can't have an unknown actor playing Batman when we got Jack Nicholson playing the Joker because Jack Nicholson will blow him away. Well, that's not really true. There's a lot of good actors out there waiting to be discovered. And I think that just has a lot to do with cronyism. Tim Burton worked with Michael Keaton on Beetlejuice. So he just liked working with him. So he cast him as Batman. It didn't have to be Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I prefer somebody like Christopher Reeve. That's why I think Christopher Reeve was such a great Superman. And to this day, the best there ever was.
I read that Tim Burton was actually scheduled to make a Superman movie, but with Nicolas Cage, and but that apparently fell through. Did you hear something like that?
Yes, that's true. As a matter of fact, I think on YouTube there's a documentary about that, about
Mm.
the making of Superman with Nicolas Cage,
Mm.
and it was interesting. I think that would have been interesting. I don't know if it would have been good or bad. It would have been either one. It would have been
Mhm.
really good or really bad. But from
Yeah.
what I've seen of it, I'm going to say it looks interesting. I would have loved to have seen it. And
Okay.
Nicolas Cage, he didn't make such a bad Superman. I mean, they were going for a more, uh, uh, let's say, Elseworlds kind of approach, I guess.
Right.
More a different approach to it. It might work. I would have loved to see it.
Absolutely. And I also got the impression as a kid, because I grew up in the '70s, so you have a lot more knowledge about Superman than I do, but I just remember as a kid that Superman was kind of like the de facto the most popular superhero for like whenever if I were to ask all my friends who was their favorite superhero, Superman would be the number one. Um, and it just seemed that like he was the top guy, but in the 70s until the Reeve movie came, there's really no movie or to really back that up. It was just the comics or the previous TV shows. Was that? Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, the big ones, the big three for DC was always Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And I would say, well, Marvel definitely Spider Man. So Superman, Batman, Spider Man. Those guys were always, I mean, always big, the biggest superheroes of all of them.
Right.
People either love Superman or Batman or Spider Man.
Right.
It's one of the, it's one of those three. And
Right.
to this day, they're still the most popular. So that says something right there.
It does. And I always remember on those the Super Friends or the Justice League, that Superman was always the leader of the group. Um,
Yeah, listen, he's the ultimate superhero. I mean, Superman is really 100% superhero. He's
yeah.
got all the super. So yes, he's usually the leader. Oh, lately, it's kind of going in Batman's direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even and look, Batman is the first one. Today is Batman Day, the first fictional character like that to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
to have a day called Batman Day. Sorry, Superman. No Superman Day, not yet. Maybe next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of surprising. You think they might one day put a Superman star on the fame on the walk there?
Yeah, I think now that Batman has one, they're definitely probably going to do one for Superman and probably Spider Man
Yeah,
and Wonder Woman. You know,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I think they all deserve one on there. Um, Now, do you remember? Because things kind of changed, but do you remember all the states of kryptonite that week in Superman? Like, what did the red kryptonite do? What did the yellow kryptonite do, and so on?
I know. For the longest time, it was just green kryptonite. Then they came out with the yellow and the red. And I told, on all honesty, I'm not really a big like Superman fan the way I am a Batman fan.
Yeah.
So I don't know the Superman lore. I couldn't tell you the difference with the kryptonites.
All I remember was the green
Oh,
kryptonite was lethal to Superman. It would kill him.
the green kryptonite.
Yeah, the green one would kill him. That's what in the movies. That's how it was portrayed anyway. The green kryptonite was going to kill him.
I only knew the green growing up. Well, I don't know when they
Yeah,
came out with the yellow and red, and I don't know what they do.
yeah,
I'm sure since they came later, they must be even worse. So
yeah.
how could it be worse? Green kryptonite could kill him. So what does the yellow and red do? Kill him more? Kill him twice? I don't know.
I think the red kryptonite weakened him. Like he lost his powers, but it didn't kill him. But I think
Oh, okay.
he lost his. He couldn't use his powers, type of thing.
Okay. What
Um, Not
the
sure what I
yellow
can't.
made him a coward. He became yellow.
Yeah, I can't remember what the yellow did, but yeah, and it was.
Forever. I mean, Superman 1938, Batman 1939. So man, just think of how many stories these guys these. So they got to come up with different things. Some things
Yeah,
work, some don't. Some
yeah,
things are really, really good. Some things are silly.
yeah.
Some things are terrible. Because it goes on forever. So they're not going to always hit a home run.
Right. Did they hit a home run with Superdog?
Yeah, when you were a kid, you loved that. You loved Superdog. Superman is Superboy, Superdog, Crypto. Yeah, that's right, Crypto. Even Batman had a bat. It's the Bat Hound. So
Yeah.
for kids, that's great. And I haven't read anything recently with those with the dogs,
Mm,
but I heard that you those into good stories now. That there's a really good Crypto story, a really good Ace the Bat Hound story, which I haven't read those, but
mm.
surprised me. But yeah, as a kid, you used to love that. Oh, Superman's got a super dog. Batman's got a bat dog. That's when they were doing the kids, the cartoons, and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm really stoked for for Superman. You can see it there. It's going to be showing today and apparently September 25th. It looks like they're being very particular in terms of only the 2 days for this documentary to be shown in the theater. I guess they're really eyeing the Netflix market or the digital platform market. Very strategic there, Vic.
Yeah, well, that's what they do now. They really aim it towards Netflix or whatever, some online streaming thing, and
Mm,
they'll show it for the theater to get a buzz.
yeah,
And they say 1 day or 2 days. So if you miss it, you're like, oh, I got to make sure I see it on Netflix or Amazon or wherever the hell you're going to watch it.
right, right.
But
Now
they
my
promote the online streaming thing, and they'll have it in a theater a day or two. And but mainly they're aiming for the Netflix or whatever it is.
right. Now we've seen so many special things in the movies, of course, that Superman has done. For me, one of the great moments of Superman is when he rescues the kid from Niagara Falls. When the kid falls into the falls, and then Superman rescues him, and then kid says more, more, and he says, "Oh no, only one ride per customer," and then flies off. I mean, what's your favorite Superman moment in those movies?
Oh man, it's more than one. Well, I like when
Well, give
he's
me some.
I like when he's flying with Lois and they're playing that "Can you read my mind?" I like
Okay.
that when he's flying with Lois, and I like the one when he's oh, there's so many of them.
There's so
Uh,
many.
yeah, I mean, those
You know
kind of
what?
moments.
I love the Brando moment when Brando lays out the courtroom scene when the three villains are on trial, and
Oh,
he lays out the courtroom. This is no fantasy, no product of wild imagination, and so on. And
yeah,
then you see them get rendered guilty, and then the back and forth between General Zod and Kal-El as he walks away, knowing that having sentenced them to their doom. That back and forth there was absolutely amazing as a kid.
oh yeah. I mean, who was the actor that played Zod?
Terrence Stamp.
Oh, Terrence Stamp. Yes, of course. Oh, he was great. He was
Yeah,
great in that part.
yeah.
He was a great.
You will bow down before me.
Yeah, the villain guy.
Both you and one day your heirs. Yeah,
All
I
right, you
mean,
got the part. But if they do a remake, you could play Zod.
and then Nod, the big guy who who couldn't speak but was so funny playing the with the comedy there, and when they raid the White House and ransack the White House and then corral the president there, uh, or even on the moon. Remember when they're on the moon and Ursa confronts the astronaut on the moon?
Oh yeah, sure. You know what I'm going to do after this? Later, I'm going to watch those first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I got to watch them now.
And then, of course, the Eiffel Tower when Superman diffuses the bomb in the Eiffel Tower. That was pretty strong stuff in that very first movie. It established Superman right away.
There's a lot of those moments. That's the movie was so good. Those first two movies, you got a lot of those moments where, like, which one was the best? Well, it could be any one of them. They were all
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
A lot of good. Yeah,
they were all
I
good.
think that holds up so well to this day.
It really does. It really does. And I think that's why we're so hopeful for this upcoming film in 2025. Um, through all this time though, Vic, whether Superman has been up or been down, um, he's still very popular and he's still referenced by other films and still has an influence in other films and even in society today. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, I think since its creation in '38, Superman in 1938, Batman in 1939, both of them
Mhm.
never really. They've been with us. They're like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. They're around for you know.
And with that, I think we're almost out of time. Was there anything else, Vic, that you wanted to let the fans know about before we go today?
Well, I do want to say since it is Batman Day, whoever enjoyed this podcast, you'll also enjoy our Batman podcast. And just go on YouTube, type in "Best Batman Podcast," and you'll see Kenai and I doing our paying homage to the Batman like we did here to Superman. And since this is Batman Day, What better way to celebrate than watching Kanaya and I doing a podcast about the Batman? Because
Absolutely.
Batman and Superman go hand in hand.
Absolutely. They've always been front and center for whenever I've seen them, and hopefully they can continue to do that. Vic, it's been such an amazing time here talking Superman with you. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and hopefully we can continue to talk about other ones, maybe like Bruce Lee or something like that.
Yeah, well, like I had mentioned, I think we could do a because Bruce Lee's amazingly to this day, like Superman and Batman, so popular,
You know
and
what? I think
people.
we are going to do that. Now that I think about it, Vic, because I have some news here for that. We are definitely going to be doing a Bruce Lee conversation, and not only that, we're going to take it up a level, and we're going to bring on, in addition to Vic, we're going to bring on some special panelists, people who are well versed with Bruce Lee and are authorities in martial arts and in film. And so stay tuned, Crossfire Nation, for that. We'll have more information on that. Probably going to do it in October, um, so we can get ready for that. But Vic, again, thank you so much for starting us off with this series. We got Batman, we got The Sopranos, now we got Superman, and now I think we're on to Bruce Lee now.
Well, yes. Well, let's see. We started with the Sopranos, then we went did a Batman. Now we did a Superman. I think we should definitely do a Bruce Lee because, like Superman and Batman, people can't get enough of Bruce Lee. To this day, he's so popular, and there's a lot of people who claim to know a lot about Bruce Lee and they don't. And I'm going to put these people to the test.
Oh
So
well,
stay tuned.
definitely they'll definitely be up for the challenge. Can't wait for this one. All right, Crossfire Nation, you heard it here first. So thank you so much for stopping by and watching this special edition of MMA Crossfire Live, the Superman episode. And again, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, it premieres today in theaters. It's also going to be shown on September 25th. So if you want a seat in the theater, those will be your 2 days to check it out. Otherwise, it should be out on digital platforms as well. So for Vic Martino, I am Kenai Andrews. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we will see you in the next one. Take care and up, up, and away.
Yes.